All right, welcome everybody. You guys are all spread out so far, so I'm gonna keep looking all around the room. But welcome to Bridging the Gap Between Local Food and Local Kids. Food access, nutrition, local, agriculture, education, kids, farmers, collaboration, community, schools, growing, family, fruits and vegetables, nature. Have any of the words that I just said resonated with you today, either personally or professionally? If so, you are definitely in the right place, and thank you for being here. This is not an exhaustive list of words. I could go on and on and on, and for those of you that know me, know that that is a truth. So, this is just a quick overview of our panel here today, and each of us will be going into a little bit more detail, so I'm not going to introduce everyone right now, but I will go ahead and introduce myself. Hi everyone, my name is Kylee Bennett, and I serve as the Youth Wellbeing Coordinator for Parkview Health, and I also serve as the lead for the Northeast Indiana Farm to School team. I am so grateful to be here and to have this opportunity to kick off our panel regarding farm to school, local food, our kids, our community, our local farmers, talking about bridging the gaps within all of those worlds, talking about what's currently happening across our region, and then looking at how we can take those next steps. So what is farm to school? I will tell you that years ago when I first started digging into the farm to school world, I knew very little. I come from an agricultural background with my grandparents. However, I did not learn everything I could from them. So it was a whole new world working with schools, after school programs, and everyone else. And I learned along the way and continue to learn at each day that progresses. And one thing, to be completely honest, that when I heard farm to school, I thought of farms and I thought of schools. And I know after several conversations and listening to our community that I'm not the only one in that place. But I learned and I grew. And so I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about what is farm to school. And it's not just farms and schools working together, it's everyone. It can be everyone. What we want to talk about right now are these three components that make up farm to school, and this comes from the National Farm to School Network, which are procurement, education, and school gardens, and I will dive into those just a little bit because we don't have a lot of time today. But the other thing, when I was thinking, what is farm to school, when I first started, I automatically went to procurement. And once again, having those conversations and listening, that's what a lot of the community thinks too, which is great, and that's a long-term goal of a lot of our partnering organizations, but it can be daunting to them to think about that whole process and all the challenges and barriers and questions that come along with it. And so that's why it's so nice to break this down into these three categories and realize what farm to school or farm to organization, however you want to portray it, can mean to us in our community and across the region. So procurement. You can take products that are grown locally and go straight into cafeterias, whether that be in schools or businesses or wherever else. But you can also utilize them as a snack or in a taste test. So lots of opportunities there. But another great thing about procurement is that it strengthens our local economy. That's huge, especially as we are going through this pandemic and don't quite know when it's going to end. The other thing that's so great about procurement is it's a connector between our local farms and producers and our schools, after-school programs, businesses, organizations, and so on. Gardens. Now, I'm not one with a green thumb. I'm learning. I have some colleagues that are very helpful with that as well, and a lot of partners throughout the community. But one amazing thing about gardens is that you can engage in those hands-on learning experiences. A lot of educational opportunities exist. You can be out in nature. And I don't know about you, but I love getting my hands dirty. It just makes me feel like a kid again. And our team jokes and talks about it all the time, but you almost have to have that kid at heart and be able to play and engage in youth-fulfilling activities to make the stressors of life less so and have fun and keep going that direction. And so gardens give kids and adults of all ages those opportunities. And then there's a lot of garden types that go along with it too. So there's indoor and outdoor, and Janet talked a little bit about it earlier, and I'll explain more in a little bit, but tower gardens, indoor. We talk about our short growing season outdoors here in the Northeast region. So what can we do to overcome that barrier, that challenge? That's a great opportunity. Herb gardens, if you don't have a lot of space, we've talked to partners about windowsill gardens, and we've even dabbled as a team in gardens in a glove. So many great opportunities, but you also have your greenhouses, hoop houses, raised beds. There's so many varieties there that you can conquer so many of the challenges that we see. And education, the third component of Farm to School. This is a huge opportunity for our community and for our region to engage in. You can connect the education to agriculture, food, health, wellness, nutrition. The list goes on and on and on. There's also indoor and outdoor opportunities, not just with the garden, but simply being in nature. And we have so many community partners out there that can do just this. You just have to think outside that box a little bit. But also, what I think is most crucial with education is that when you talk to school systems, after school, summer programs, et cetera, it has to be simple for them to engage because there's just so much going on. And you can tie farm to school education into other subjects. I just listed a couple of here: math, English language arts, there's so many more. But what we need to showcase is that you can tie everything together. They don't have to be separate components. Why are we here? Why is this farm to school local food so important? Why are we all coming together to enhance and increase our efforts within farm to school? I listed 3 reasons here. I'm sure this group could list a whole lot more. But kids win, farmers win, and our communities win. Just think about that. Each of those can tie together, but they can each be their separate component. But that is amazing that one initiative can bring together and have wins for all 3 of these groups. Like I said when I introduced myself, I also lead the Farm to School team for our region. And as you may have heard when Janet was speaking, this all started back in September of 2019 when we were awarded a USDA Farm to School planning grant. And what we wanted to do was build a farm to school team. We knew that's what we needed and that people wanted, having those conversations. So I'm here to talk a little bit about who we are and what we do. Now I know these might be hard for you guys to read, so I will go ahead and read them to you. But I want to say, and I want to preface this with, when we first started meeting, we were meeting on a monthly basis, gathering information, asking questions, the why, what are our goals, and this all helped us lead into our mission and vision. So the mission of our Farm to School team is that we collaborate through community partnerships to generate awareness, create sustainable educational and agricultural opportunities, and support healthy living. With our vision, we bridge the gap between local farmers, schools, and the community to cultivate a healthy environment where every person can live a life of well-being, success, and purpose. Now, once again, this is not an exhaustive list of partners, but this just shows you how important to our region, our Northeast region, the 11 counties, is to our community. So you can see there's a list of schools, early childhood programs on the left side, then on the right side is more of our community partnerships. And then there's the bolded 5 schools at the top. These were our original 5 school districts that participated in our planning grant, and we helped them develop farm to school implementation plans. So short-term, long-term goals, and all of that meet in between so they could get started on that journey. But since then, you can see how far we've come. And we don't want to stop here. We want to continue to grow this list of people, and we invite anyone and everyone, no matter what your background is, what your passion is, we can guarantee that we can find a crossover somewhere in between, because Farm to School opens up those opportunities. And once again, Janet had gone over a couple of things that we are focused on right now, but we knew that we couldn't tackle everything at one time. So really honing in on what are feasible projects and what is important to our group and to the community. This lists just a few things that we are currently working on. I know Janet had mentioned the school gardens. There was curriculum up there. Right now, we are meeting every other month. That could always change, but once again, we invite anyone to partake in those. Then looking at educational and networking events. So today here at the local food forum, that is one of our opportunities to learn, grow, and network with one another, and then we'll have more upcoming. But also having more technical assistance with some of our processes and initiatives. And then I think the thing that I'm most excited about is expanding our Harvest of the Month program. And I will go into just a little bit more detail on that now. This is our Harvest of the Month logo. So anywhere you see this, you know it's in regard to our Harvest of the Month program. One thing we did was looked at what can we grow here in Northeast Indiana and what's readily available throughout the whole calendar year. So we do have a list of 24 products. Right now we're focused on fruits and vegetables, but that could change over the years into any proteins and dairies and grains, etc. But what we are working on within the Harvest of the Month program is creating those agricultural education videos like Janet talked about. So working with farms across our region. Over the next couple of years, we should have 24 produced, which we're thrilled about. But we are also creating nutrition education videos. So some of our local dietitians have created videos that go along with our 24 products and are talking about nutrition facts with these products, but also creating a recipe with them. And you can see in the top left corner, that is just one of our recipe cards that goes along with those videos. And there is one for each month. So those will be available on YouTube very soon. The other thing with the Harvest of the Month program that is so exciting is thanks to an Indiana Grown grant and the USDA grant, we are offering taste tests to partnering schools. This month is peppers, and we are working with a local farm to procure peppers. So our team is purchasing those thanks to those grants, and then we are providing those to the schools to try. And that will happen each month, and we work with them. And then we also have what we're considering a toolkit to go along with these. So our teams are creating coloring pages, worksheets, fun facts, nutrition facts, everything that we can think of, and we'll continue to build upon that, not just for kind of your K through 5, but also early childhood, middle school, and high school. So this will be a continuous process, but one, like I said, I'm very excited about. Just a few pictures here from some of our school partners. Another thing Janet mentioned was that we are able to purchase a garden of some sorts. We've talked with the schools and they tell us what they want. Is it a raised bed? Is it a tower garden? Because we don't want to do something that they don't want to do. We want to partner together and collaborate. The last couple of years, they all purchased tower gardens. A lot of them have expressed that same interest this year. This is just a couple of pictures that we've received from some of our school partners to see, so we can show you how well things are growing and how they're learning and working together in that process. So if you want to learn more, of course, come visit us at the Expo, and we have more information there. One pager, my information is there as well. But you can also find more details at Parkview's website, so under Farm to School. And then also Janet has information up on her website for the local food network. All right. And now I'm going to pass it off to Lisa to introduce herself and talk a little bit about what they're doing. Do you want to? Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Bradley. I'm with the Early Childhood Alliance. I am the CACFP coordinator. So for those of you who don't know, that stands for the Child and Adult Care Food Program. We're kind of like the early childhood, child care version of the school lunch program. We were set up by the USDA years ago to make sure that kids got fed well in child care, which Farm to School makes a really great combination with that. And not only Farm to School, but Farm to School took it a little bit further and now does Farm to ECE, which is Farm to Early Childhood. So we could really look at how we can make a really good combination to get the kids where they are. When Kylee listed all of her words, she forgot a couple of big ones for the early childhood community: dirt, water, and mud. Those are three big combinations that we found out that if we could get kids outside, feeling the ground, feeling the dirt, and planting the seed, is a great combination for where we can go. Some of the things that we do particularly are work not only in the 11 counties that we have with the Farm to School initiative, we work in additional 17 counties, but one thing that really surprised us in the early childhood world was that for the majority of American kids, the most recognizable vegetable that they knew was a potato in the form of a French fry. And a tomato, although apples came in very close, a tomato is a vegetable, but it's only known in the form of ketchup. So how do we get these guys to know what a tomato really looks like? And what a potato really looks like, and where does it come from? Farm to School gives us those abilities and those tools that we can have to go with them. We work really closely with the providers. Our child care providers in centers and in homes are absolutely critical to this combination. We have worked and been lucky enough to be able to team with Parkview for the taste testings. We actually got to team with Parkview for a couple of other great experiences where we teach the providers. One of the things we want to do is make sure that we get to the people that they see most. They may not see the three of us on a regular basis if we're involved in their programs, but they will see the person that cares for them every day. And if that person tries to get them to try something, they're going to know them a little bit better. But as Janet mentioned earlier, little people are not necessarily known to like to try something once, and if they don't like it, we need to try it again, and again, and again. Probably admittedly, one of the biggest combinations I can say with getting kids out, growing and things like that is, hi, my name is Lisa. I'm a picky eater. I haven't met a food that I will say, no, I don't like that too. But if you give me a seed, and I'm 5, all of a sudden it's my seed. And I couldn't stand cantaloupe, but this is my cantaloupe seed. And I go and I plant it in the ground, and I water it, which when Kylee was talking about all the other combinations we come with, the science and the math and everything, there's also that set of responsibility. That I grew up in the 06. We don't have a lot of farms in the 06. We're getting better, we have a couple urban farms. But our groceries came from the grocery store. But now this cantaloupe is growing in the backyard of my childcare, where I go every day. And I water it, and I have the opportunity to try it. And I've gotten very possessive of my cantaloupe now, and by the way, it's the best cantaloupe in the whole wide world, and I don't know why I never liked it in the first place. So those are some of the reasons we get really actively involved, by giving our providers the tools that they need to not only know that, yeah, we may have somebody in Woodburn that can do a raised bed, but then we also have somebody in the 06 that doesn't have maybe even a backyard. But like Kylee said, there's lots of different ways that we can grow them, and working on those things with our providers and educating them that sometimes a 5-gallon tub can make a salsa garden. Put a couple of plants in, and then we can make salsa. We can make spaghetti sauce. What can we do? It also gives the kids the ability to see where these things are coming from. Some grow top, some grow bottom. But just that sense of wonder that we had. Remember when we were little and everything was a miracle? It's the same way. And it kind of gets infectious with us because we get to see it through their eyes. So teaming up with our providers to make sure that they have the tools that they need, the information that they need, and some really amazing training opportunities that are given through Farm to School, through Farm to ECE, through the USDA and programs like Grow It, Like It, Try It. We can pass this on to the generation that is actually going to be impacting the next generation. It pairs really well with all of the purposes behind. We're trying to dabble a little bit in the procurement. For us, it's the education and the gardens that we're working with now. To make a move to get to procurement, that would be attaching and getting our providers in conjunction with Johnny May Farms, the other urban farms, the CSA baskets that we mentioned earlier, to get fresh produce into their hands. Teaming up with places like Parkview makes that possible because nonprofits, when we gather together and work, we can do amazing things. The Farm to School Network's big thing is to make sure that the kids are healthy and going forward. Aligns perfectly with our cause for Early Childhood Alliance, which is building healthy futures. And the first place you start with building a healthy future is with a healthy child. By getting them local food where they know where it comes from, getting them to know the farmers that grow the food. For a lot of them, they don't know that. One of the great things about combining Farm to School, along with the work that the Northeast Indiana Food Network is doing, is that great set of programs. If you get a chance to check it out, I have 9 childcares tomorrow that are going to go on a virtual tour of a dairy farm because this group made that possible. So those are some of the things that we're doing at early childhood, and we're trying to spread out a little bit further. So thank you very much.
All right, and now we'll hear from Becky Landis.
Good morning. It's still good morning, I think, by about 5 minutes. My name is Becky Landis, and I'm a food service director from Manchester Community Schools district in about half an hour, 45 minutes west of Fort Wayne. And I have about 1,500 students. So it looks a little bit different when it's 1,500 students versus, say, IPS and you have 35,000, or Fort Wayne has 35,000 students. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of it. I'm not really involved as much with the education part. I'm teamed up with Kylee on Harvest of the Month, and COVID's kind of getting in the way of that. So I'm hoping that maybe I can do a little better job with that going forward. But a little bit about procurement and why don't we buy local? Why don't schools purchase locally from the people around us? Well, now is the time. If there ever was a time, it is now, because just last Friday, it took me 60 times to get enough food for my menus, 3 days worth of menus for my district. That takes a lot of time. And if I can go to a local company, which I'm exploring that, it would be much simpler, because in getting that food from a larger entity to me requires labor in those plants. Well, first it requires the product getting there to the processing plant, then it requires the processing plant, then it requires the processing plant delivering it to the distributor, and the distributor getting it to me. And that's a lot of moving pieces, and right now we don't have all those pieces. So I'm exploring some options. We've been doing farm to school for 15 years, probably, give or take, before farm to school was even really a thing. What happened is one of our local vegetable producers realized that all of a sudden, when he had the most crops, he didn't have the market that he had all summer, and realized that's because school started. So he and the business manager who is now retired at our school came up with a plan that we do a local day. And I was not the director at that time. I was actually the kitchen manager. And I still remember that day very well because the business manager didn't really realize that if the hamburger isn't pattied and you have to make 600 patties, that it takes a lot of time. He made hamburger patties. If you have ketchup and squeeze bottles, what happens if you only have 10 of them and you have all these kids? But it still was a success because it started our journey. And so anybody who's wanting to start a farm to school program needs to start small. And I feel like, because I sit on a procurement committee for the Indiana Grown Farm to School, and we're working on a toolkit to put out, which will have a section for the producers and a section for the schools to help start those conversations. Because you might think that I'm not going to purchase from you if you're a producer because I can't afford your product. And you're partially right. And you might also think that I'm also not going to purchase from you because you can't produce enough. You might be right. But you might think that, and so then already we have a barrier here because you think those things. And I think that I'm going to have food safety issues if I purchase from you. I could be right or not. And that's where the conversations need to start. So if you're already selling to someone else, to a farmer's market, to trying to think of some other things, you probably already have some food safety protocols that we can just tap into. If I'm wanting to purchase from you, I realize that I'm going to have to pay probably more than I would from somebody that say that I'm going to just, like a GFS or a US Foods or some of those larger food systems. And yes, I will. But there is a balance between that. I'm not going to probably be able to, not probably, I can't. We're just going to say it like it is. I can't purchase 100% local, but I can purchase some. So currently right now, the bread comes from South Bend. The milk comes from Huntington. I purchase local beef right there in our community for some of our hamburger patties, not for the lasagna, because I feel like that the wow factor in a lasagna that has a hamburger from somewhere else is really not there. But if you bite into a big juicy burger that came from a locally produced farm versus something that I'm going to purchase from a big distributor, the wow factor is there. So I purchase vegetables and I purchase apples. I didn't realize this was local food week for this, the system here, but the 23rd, which is Thursday, is going to be our local day. After COVID, we kind of wound down a little bit. Things were hard, and I kind of went to my local vegetable producer and said, we're doing about 1,000 meals, or 1,000 boxes, because we were sending out bulk distribution last summer. And if I was to send out a salad, do you think maybe you could provide me with 2,000 cups of lettuce? And obviously the answer was, not really. So that's a conversation for another time. Maybe that is going to be something that can happen. It goes on the back burner. It's still in my mind. How could we have ever made that happen? Can we ever make that happen in the future? And the answer is probably yes, but there will have to be some things that will happen and some changes. We're also going to try corn. Like if you process corn for your family, you cut it off, you pick it, shuck it, cut off the cob. Well, I can't shuck 600 years of corn. Neither can my kitchen staff, honestly. That would be impossible. But there was a farmer who happened to hear about what we do and approached me and said, hey, would you be interested in some corn? And I'm like, yeah, tell me a little bit about what you do. So we're going to try corn. He has corn that he raised. They process like the corn that we would have in our own freezers at home, which is completely different than what I would purchase from the vegetable manufacturers out there, the whole kernel corn. I'm waiting to see what the kids have to say. The other thing is I've built a rapport with those students. So it's a dialogue between what do you like and what's important to you, and do you like what we're trying to do? And actually, I believe that our biscuits and gravy now finally has just topped our #1 breakfast seller list at the high school. We have kids lining up for it. The other thing that happens with that is we have to produce a meal for the students. Typically, before it was like for $3.50 for the free and reduced kids, and we are currently charging $2.85 for a paid meal. Think about all the food, all the labor, any benefits for the workers, and all of the dishes, whether it's disposables, whether it's things that you wash. Think about dishwashers, think about equipment. Some schools pay for electricity. All that comes out of the food service budget. The school does not supply us with money. In fact, it's very frowned on that they would actually supply us. We have to be a self-operating entity within the school system. That's really difficult to do. Right now, currently, we are getting extra money because of the COVID, and so it's $4.60, and that's very, very doable. But think about, from your end, if I'm purchasing something from you, how much am I going to be able to spend? Because not only that, now we also have to have so much protein, so many grains, so many cups of fruits and vegetables, so much milk, calories, fats, and sodium levels. And all that has to fit and mesh. And is it possible? Yes, it is. We're going to try chicken because Tyson was not able to supply chicken. And I was getting really frustrated, again, going back to how many times it takes for me to place an order and sends it back rejected. So I'm like, well, we've got to do chicken somehow. There has to be a way. Chicken has always been one of those things that's been on the back burner. But how am I going to figure out how many ounces of protein I have so that I can prove when they come in to check my menus and my production records that I actually have what I say I have? And so I'm partnering with Fisher Farms. And how that's going to work for me is that it actually is going to come up north. So it has to go from north of where I'm located, south to almost Indianapolis before it comes back up to me. And I know that's kind of a weird, convoluted way, but I think that's really going to work because they have made an agreement with a Piazza Produce, which is a company out of Indianapolis, and for a delivery fee, which is very nominal, that they will bring that product, and those trucks come to my door already. There are some other ways of doing it. I can purchase things through Piazza. They have a local section. I can intentionally do that. I intentionally send my commodity pounds to Red Gold versus Heinz. There are some intentional ways that schools can purchase locally if they're not able to purchase in their backyard. I think it's a great thing. We're a small rural community. We don't have a lot of industry, and it's a good way for a school to give back to the community who also in turn sends students to us. So again, it comes full circle. So I think that there are conversations that need to be had. There's conversations that are happening currently right now on how to get foods into schools, but I do really think that it's possible. Thank you.
All right, and now thanks to technology, which we're all so useful these days, Julia Smith from Purdue Fort Wayne will be joining us virtually. Hi, Julia.
Hi. How is everyone? I can't see you, but I'm here. I'm Julia Smith, and I am the faculty lead, really, on the School of Education Urban Garden, and I'm going to talk about this today, our project that we've had. It's been a partnership with Extension since 2019. That's what I wanted. 2019, we started meeting with Extension, and we wanted to start an urban garden on campus. And our goal was to have like a demo garden in which we could invite students over and we could talk about aligning gardening curriculum to K through 12 teaching standards. And there's just some really creative things that you can do to connect education and teaching standards to gardening and growing things. So that was our primary goal. The other thing was just to build interest in, students to eat better, to have access to fresh, healthy local foods. And for teaching students, for students in the School of Education, primarily to think about ways in which they could go out as future educators and do farm to school or school gardens in their classrooms. So I have some pictures. Are the pictures up already of the garden? I can't see, so I'm not sure where we are.
I don't know, are we able to show the pictures while she's talking?
Or can I screen share them?
Here,
Oh, there we go, yay. Okay.
there, okay. You tell me when to
Awesome.
go to the
Yeah.
next page.
I just wanted people to see this. I love visuals. I'm a very visual person, so I thought this would be helpful and just kind of showing you the progress, the progression of the garden and how we started out. And again, this was a handful of faculty in the School of Education, and we started meeting with Terry Thyssen over there at Extension, and we got together and we got some money. We got a grant, and we just had a good time of it. This is when we first built the garden beds. We built 6 beds on the grounds of Extension. And we did this over a couple of days, and we had students out there, we had extension educators, master gardeners, faculty, and it was absolutely wonderful. I mean, we got together, people learned from each other, the interactions were fun, and we built these beds and had these 6 beds built and filled them with dirt. And it was just a wonderful experience. You can see here a picture of some of my students with an extension educator in the background. And the little picture down here in the corner, you see they're unloading supplies off of a pickup truck. It was hard work. It was a lot of work, but definitely paid off. A student painted the sign. You see the School of Education Urban Garden. One of our students actually painted that. He was very creative in doing that. Okay, you can flip on to the next. There we go. So anyway, one thing that really came out of this garden was partnerships. I mean, it was so much fun to get students together with faculty, together with extension educators, master gardeners, just people from different walks of life who normally wouldn't mingle. And you get them out there building raised beds and filling raised beds full of dirt, and then later on planting. And it is just so much fun. I just remember the different stories that came up and the conversations we had and just the learning opportunity. So I want to focus on that because I think that was a very important piece of what came out of this garden. Other things that we did when we initially planted the garden, we did it we had 2 plantings. One, we had students who planted the cole crops after we had filled the beds. And the second planting we did later on in May, and we had children from an elementary school come out and they helped us with that second planting. And so here you can see in the picture, these are students from Peace Montessori, and they came out for a field trip one day and it was raining, pouring rain. And they got together with some students in the School of Education. A class from the School of Education came out and we just worked together and planted the garden. Had a great day of it, had lunch, and so that was one of the activities. Here's a student of mine in the middle. He's doing face painting. And this was when Extension had their annual plant sale back in 2019, and he was doing face painting at our garden as part of just some of the activities they had going on that day. You can see here also a little baby watermelon. We planted watermelons 2 years in a row. This year we didn't do watermelons, but they did very well over there in the garden, and of course kids love that kind of thing. All right, let's move on to the next slide. All right, so now I'm going to talk about some of the events that we've had around the garden. back in 2019. Now, unfortunately, we haven't been able to do this again because of the COVID, but back in 2019, the fall of 2019, we had a harvest day, and we had students from hospitality and tourism along with education students. We got together and we planned a menu, and we cooked a big farm to fork dinner over at student housing. So you can see here the middle picture. These are students, faculty, some of the master gardeners were there, and we cooked this big farm to fork dinner. And it was just so much fun. We had about 50 people show up to have dinner that night. And just one way that we could really build awareness of local foods among the student population. And at that dinner, we talked about the garden, and we said, hey, if you want to come out and volunteer in the garden, we're always looking for volunteers. This is one of my students. You can see it on the far right there, he's serving up the meal. We had a delicious meal that night. And, again, it was a great activity. Last year, because of COVID, we could not do it. But one thing we did last year is we partnered with Vincent Village and Out of a Jam. And, we just had all these tomatoes that were coming in. And it was like, what are we going to do with all these tomatoes? And so we reached out to Out of a Jam and decided that, hey, come harvest the tomatoes, vegetables, whatever you want from the garden. And we ended up sponsoring a chili dinner over at Vincent Village, and it was great. They brought their food truck. A few of our students showed up to volunteer, and we served chili dinner that night with cornbread. And so, again, another way that we take this idea of growing local food and just reaching out to the community, because we couldn't do the dinner last year. We probably won't do the dinner again this year, unfortunately, because of the numbers going up. But other things that we've done this year, we actually have donated every week, not every week, but I would say about 10 weeks during the summer. We donated to the Purdue Fort Wayne Food Pantry. And the feedback that I've gotten on that is the fresh food that comes in goes very, very quickly. And so that's been a really good thing. And now we have started selling at the Purdue Fort Wayne Farmers Market. And we sell everything for a donation as long as the donation is at market, fair market value. So we're selling at the farmers market with the, trying to raise some money for scholarships for students in the School of Education. So those have been a couple of activities that we have had ongoing this summer, even with COVID. We're still being active. We're still using the food in a productive way. And this Thursday, actually, we have 40 children coming out for a field trip from Adams Elementary School, and they're going to be doing a little digging. I heard Lisa talk about digging in the garden, and of course, young kids love that. They love getting their hands dirty. So they're going to come out with little spoons and do a little digging in the garden and get a tour and learn just about the different vegetables that we're growing out there. So that'll be a fun event. What else are we doing? Well, that's about it, because we're kind of wrapping up the season here. But we have worked with students who are science educators, and they have come out and they've done sample soil testing at the garden. And again, just talking about opportunities. How can you use farm to school as a teacher? How can you use it as a hands-on creative teaching tool? And exploring those opportunities with students. That's really has been our primary goal. But again, all these other wonderful things like just networking and getting to know people from different groups or different walks of life, all of these other things have come out of the School of Education Garden, which have been really delightful and fun. And it's always fun bringing people together around food.
All right, thank you, Julia. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so now we've learned about some of the amazing initiatives happening across our region. We've heard about the good, the challenges and barriers, the conversations that continuously need to be had. And we've had the opportunity to talk about what Farm to School is, a little bit about our Northeast Indiana Farm to School team. But now you may be asking yourself, what do I do? Where do I go from here? The information's great, but I want to take action. Where do I go? Could we put the slides back up? Thank you. So now what do I do? We're all different. We all learn differently. We all have different methods to our madness. So I'm going to give you a few different opportunities you can take with you to take action within Farm to School. What you'll see here is more of a process or a plan, if you will. So if you are that type of person, you're process-oriented, prefer to have a plan, this is for you. This is a way you can get started or further engage if you've already taken those first steps. The first thing to do is really assess where you are or where your organization is. So if your organization stands behind you with pursuing Farm to School initiatives, fabulous. But if it's you, that's okay too. Then forming a team. Doesn't need to be just you. Or are there other like-minded people that want to be involved? Asking those questions and seeking those individuals out is really important. Because as you can tell here, this is just a few of us that have come together as part of our Farm to School team. But it really all is about collaboration. And I talk about that widely in all the work that I do because nobody could do these things alone. And you've heard from these individuals that it can't be done alone. There has to be conversations. We have to work together to conquer some of these things. And so forming that team can help, or having people you can reach out to ask those questions, get answers. But then establishing SMART goals, things that are possible. And I'll go into this a little bit further in just a minute, but thinking through what's not too much to tackle at once. I said in the very beginning when we talked about the development of our Farm to School team, there's so many things we could do, but we had to narrow it down so that people would want to continue to be involved. And that's just what we have to do. It has to be simple and feasible, especially with everyone having so much on their plates right now. No matter if you are a volunteer or a parent or a business professional, educator, it doesn't matter. We all have a lot going on and need to be mindful of that. So just thinking through 1 or 2 goals to get started, and you can work from there. But learning from others. In a minute, I'll show you some support systems that we have, not just in our area, but across the country also. And then promoting Farm to School. Telling your story, sharing what it is that you do and why people should get involved. And one thing that's really heartfelt to me, not only working with youth and families, but also as a mom to 2 amazing kiddos, is that they're speaking out. We're giving them a platform to have a voice and become the best versions of themselves by introducing this early on. Lisa talked about the early childhood piece and having that introduction and really going back and letting them know how powerful it is to place something in their hand. The very first slide, I believe, I had a child with a seed in her hand. That is my all-time favorite picture that I've taken from our Farm to School initiatives because it shows that starting point. So just a process that you can take, but promoting Farm to School is so important no matter how little or big you believe your initiative or program is. But what if? What if you don't have much support? What if you don't know who to talk to? What if you have to start small? That's your only choice. Well, if there's no money available, I think we've all probably heard that, right? Money is a huge barrier. What if it's just me? Can't find anybody else to help. No one has experience. I want to do it. I don't know where to get started. I don't know what to do. Don't have that background. There is no right or wrong place to start. A process is valuable, and so are critical thinking questions. That's what is so wonderful, and truly amazing about Farm to School is that you have the opportunity to start at a place that is most convenient and comfortable for you. Doesn't matter where that starting place is. When you take action to ask and seek out the what ifs, things are possible. You are making your ideas, other people's ideas, a possibility. You are strategically considering what could be done while being mindful of the potential challenges. And we've only mentioned a few of those challenges here today. So if you aren't ready for a full process or a detailed plan, starting small is always a solid option. Oh, can I go there? Click too much. One of the things I talk about in all the work that I do is the importance of starting small. I go back to how many of us are overwhelmed and have been for at least the last year and a half, if not years prior to that. And if we try to take on too much, it gets harder and harder and we just stop. So we need to make things easy on ourselves and not only collaborate, but start small, no matter how small that has to be. But I guarantee that it can lead to big changes. I talked about your support systems. With Farm to School, it's so exciting because so many people are invested and want to be involved or already involved. We have so many great resources that are out there wanting to help, willing to help, no matter what area it's in. And I only listed a few here. Of course, our Farm to School team is always there for you to ask questions. We can help connect you. We have our Indiana Grown for Schools, and if you are not aware of who they are our statewide Farm to School network. They are housed in Indy, but they help everyone all across the state and are amazing individuals, and they have committees that you can get involved in as well if you want to learn more or you're very passionate about a certain area. There's also the Farm to Cafeteria Conference. It's been placed on hold due to COVID, but hopefully that'll be coming back here very soon. A great place to network, and honestly, that is where I got started and learned a lot and got me to where I am today. You can talk to our early child care programs, our schools, our after school and summer programs. Many of them across the region are doing a lot of great Farm to School projects and initiatives. Learn from them, grow with them. Maybe you guys can talk about what went well, what may need improvement, and build off of that. Community businesses and resources. There are places out there that want to fund projects like Farm to School because there's so many ways that they're beneficial. And just having those conversations, being willing to take that next step and ask questions and engage in those conversations is crucial. Other states, I know I jotted down a few. Chicago Public Schools is one that's doing amazing things. They have some rooftop gardens. They have just a full-blown Farm to School group they're making movements in that area. Cincinnati Schools is another one that's doing amazing things, but there's so many more than that we can look to. And what's exciting about Farm to School is that even though we are Indiana, that this is one program, one movement where everyone, no matter where you're located, truly wants to come together and help one another. Resources, getting questions answered, etc. Everyone's there to help you. And so many more. So I could go on and on and on. Places to start. If you need to start small, here are some opportunities for you. We talked a little bit about the taste test, so getting involved there, something simple. Videos that we had talked about, the nutrition and agricultural education videos. Field trips. A lot of our local farms and producers are willing to do field trips. If not in person, maybe virtually. So having those conversations, seeing what's out there and what's available. Conferences, like I said, the Farm to Cafeteria Conference is a great one. Farm markets, community partners, small gardens. And one great thing that's coming up is the Apple Crunch, another easy way to get involved and scream from the rooftops, hey, I'm involved in farm to school programs, and this is what I'm doing, this is what we're doing, this is what we're all about. So just a few quick places to get started if you want to start something small and not go through that process or that full detailed plan. Now, October, I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but October is National Farm to School Month, which we are gearing up for. The National Farm to School Network does so many great things talking about what farm to school is, what resources they have available, and getting people involved in the movement. I've posted a couple of things here that we will be promoting. Of course, we talked about our Harvest of the Month program. Apples is our Harvest of the Month for October this year. And one other thing that the National Farm to School team has really put together, and we also have a Midwest region that is doing an Apple Crunch. The official date of the Apple Crunch is October 14th. We have flyers at our table in the exhibitor Expo, so if you want some more information. But the great thing about the Apple Crunch, you can make it however small or however big that you want to. Just as an example, last year, our community well-being team did our crunch together as a team through Zoom. And we crunched, and I took not so great of pictures because that's not my background, but that's okay. We were all there together and got to crunch in and have a great time and just be with one another. But schools are doing things. They're purchasing apples from our local orchards, which we are so grateful. We have so many wonderful ones in Northeast Indiana. But you can do it anytime throughout the month. You can do it with a team. You can do it by yourself. You can engage your smaller community, your larger community, whatever you want to do. And we also have lots of resources available to go along with it. So we have a lot of marketing materials if you want to be involved. The other 4 pictures on the outside, I'm excited to announce that these are the faces of the 4 toolkits that our Indiana Grown for Schools committees have put together, and these will be available in October for National Farm to School Month. So we've had these committees working to put a lot of information together to make these processes and farm to school initiatives easier for our larger community. So there is a procurement, early childhood education, school gardens, and then agricultural and nutrition education. So look forward to those coming out here very soon. And then another thing, if you do know me, I come up from a family that loves quotes. I enjoy them myself. I get a lot of text messages with quotes, and these are ones that I found. I know they might be hard for you to see, especially the upper left-hand corner one, but they really resonated with me as I was putting together my slides for today. And the one in the upper left-hand corner says, "Small changes can make a big difference," which we talked about. And I think that's so important for us to remember no matter where we're at. Small changes can make a big difference. And what you see depends on how you view the world. To most people, this is just dirt. To a farmer, it's potential. And finally, life on a farm is a school of patience. You can't hurry the crops or make an ox in 2 days. But what I would like to leave you with today is this last thought. Always remember that it only takes one small seed to get your garden started. And you're welcome to take with that whatever you'd like, but it just takes one small seed to take that next step. All right, I know we're standing between you and lunch, so I want to thank you all for being here today. We are all available if you do have any questions that you want to ask us privately, but please go ahead and visit our table at the Expo. And thank you all once again. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day here at the local food forum.